Hello everybody, this is Jace bringing you an audio commentary for Dare to Defy V, the Quistis 6-man event. As you can see, I'm bringing a team of Selphie, Sephiroth, and Ace. If you are familiar with this fight, you can probably imagine why I'm bringing Selphie, but if you aren't too familiar with it just yet, Selphie's here because she's going to enable lots of launches, which is the reason you bring Selphie for anything, really. She hasn't been updated since April 2022, I think? Might be off by a month, but that was actually, fun fact, the second month that I was playing this game. It's actually pretty wild to think that she can still be useful. She can charge the gauge, she can do the 2-turn delay that this fight calls for, and she can do the launching that this fight calls for, so she's actually pretty useful. With Sephiroth, we're just going to be doing tons and tons of damage and making sure the enemies never get a turn. With Ace, lots and lots of damage as well, and we're actually, as you can see here, using his VT phase to charge the gauge a little bit, but also it allows us to get his traps up and his auras through his LD buff. I guess it's not technically an LD buff, just his stack buff, but his LD brings it up to 5, so I think of it as his LD buff. Whatever. I'm using the U2 passive for my green crystal characters, so in this fight, that's going to be Sephiroth and Ace, which is why they're both getting 3 turns at the beginning. At this point, Sephiroth and Ace are both fully set up. As you can see, we brought a Rydia call, and that's because we're going to be using Sephiroth's FR, and it calls for stack buff, which Selphie doesn't have. So the Rydia call is going to take care of that. The force gauge charging for this fight is pretty tight. Sephiroth and Ace are synergies, so we thankfully get to start the fight with 30%. Otherwise, we would have to use the summon in order to make sure we can start force time before they do, because we do not have a way to cancel their force time. Alright, so here's where the tightrope walk begins. So we want to balance things just so to make sure that Sephiroth is able to deal the damage that he needs to throughout the fight. So we're going to start off by focusing on the metal tentacle dude with the marvelous hat, if I do say so myself. But we're going to be focusing on him to make sure that we don't push the fire machine gun doggy dude. These enemies are wild. But we want to make sure we don't push B too early. If we push B too early, then Sephiroth's not going to be able to deal the damage that we need to. But we're kind of past that for now, which means we're going to switch to B, and we can use Sephiroth's Echo right here to hopefully push B past his threshold. And Ace can take care of launching B so that Sephiroth can deal physical damage again. I've noticed that a lot of people use Sephiroth's Echo towards the end of Force Sign. Obviously, play the game the way you want to, but his Echo is actually one of his weakest abilities. If that's surprising to you, I recommend checking out Sinewave's most recent spreadsheet video, where he talks about how HP damage calculation works with HP damage cap up. The short of it is exactly what you think, at least in this case, how it pertains to this video. Sephiroth's FR hits not that hard compared to his EX or his LD. So, if you're wondering why I'm using his Echo so early, that's why. At this point, we're again still trying to manage the tightrope just a little bit, but we have a little bit of leeway here because it's going to be a few turns before we have to worry about Sephiroth's damage getting locked out again. You might have noticed that I was looking at the turn order for a second. I want to make sure that I was able to jump up Ace's turn while also making sure he would be able to get both of his Echoes out. Because I wanted to save his Echo for as late in force time as possible because it's his strongest hitting ability. I also figured out that his traps would go the entire time if I used his skill 2 to jump his turn up. Everything is going exactly to plan. This actually worked out really well, the turn order here. So Sephiroth is able to use his LD to push B past the threshold to where he needs to be launched, but doesn't take any physical damage. And that's actually what we have waited to use his EX for. We have his EX here, so Sephiroth's able to deal the damage he needs to, he's able to launch B to get rid of his aura so that he can deal physical damage to him later. Man, dude, Sephiroth deals so much damage. It's wild. You just gotta know how to use him properly. Alright, honestly, not much else going on at this point. Selphie's gonna continue to launch. Ace's traps are gonna continue to go off and deal a sneaky amount of damage. We were able to successfully line up both of Ace's echoes, and we're getting to use one at maximum force gauge, or force gauge bonus, FR bonus, whatever the hell you call it. It's 999. It's the best Ace FR echo that we can use in this team comp. Now here is where things start to fall apart a little bit. So as you can see, we are pushing both of them past the threshold, and if you're familiar with this fight, you might notice a problem immediately. It is now Sephiroth's turn, and we can't use physical damage, and we can't launch, and Sephiroth doesn't have his EX. I was really hoping that by using the Bahamut summon here, I would get Sephiroth's EX charge. It does not charge. I think it's because of A's aura. I was too angry here to really think about why it was happening. But I guess I'd forgotten that there are mechanics in this fight where they stop your EX recast gauge. So here I'm like, ugh, crap, do I use the Sid Rain's call? But then I realized that Sephiroth still wouldn't be able to do anything, so I realized I had to pass the turn, and this happens. It hurts. It hurts. It hurt just as much as you think it did as you're watching. It's okay. It's over. This LD is enough to finish off B. And even though we are out of force time, Sephiroth deals plenty of single target damage. Thankfully, we are still in summon, otherwise the enemy would get their force time. And between Sephiroth's skill 2, his high turn rate, Ace's traps adding just a little bit more damage, Ace having decent single target damage, it is just enough for us to still pull through and finish off this boss. Oh my gosh, I was so upset when this happened. I was so upset. But, you know, whatever. Sometimes it isn't clean, but often if you just stick it out, you'll be just fine. And that's the fight. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you didn't vomit at the end there. If you did, my condolences. Let me know who you ran for this fight. I think this is a pretty good fight. Got mechanics that you gotta pay attention to. Somewhat challenging if you pick a challenging comp. But not challenging if you're smarter than me. Anyway, thanks, bye.